both work, and but it was kind of like
Yeah.
it was funny. So
Right.
and then I have this reflection of actually, yeah, I guess we are one of the people who have been consistently building something on Hydra, for instance, as a
Right.
specific. We have already a body of work on Hydra, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, but so I guess like when I mentioned about the modalities of production of say like just like performing arts, like with audience is different of the field where we are, for instance, is uh we are not in some specific niche, we are in between spaces. And I think it's not only for us, but this medium also is in between everything, I mean, the media art, the medium is a bit sometimes more performance, sometimes more design, sometimes more workshop, and it's basically who is offering what, and then just you adjust and you do it. But that also is to say that this idea of like somehow like the recognition you have as an artist um is not so much influenced by the amount of money you bring into the space. One, because the space is abstract. What is the space? Like while in dances, thing is more narrowed down to this classic perspective. Like in theater, you have audience and seats. So how many people you bring to this, how many seats you're taking with your performance to sell. While in the media art is depending who and is the different the modality. I mean, in relation to how to position yourself, like I mean, with this idea of like recognition, for instance, like recognition. Yeah, but basically what you were saying, like, well, I think in dance is kind of more straightforward. Uh, like
Mm.
certain people, because it doesn't have to be like, for instance, sometimes I hear about like people who are everybody, I mean, or people, different people that I know, they are, oh, you don't know this artist? And I'm like, no. And then they are like, oh, wow, they expect that I should know them. Um, but anyway, like this is based on Lily's yesterday that they are, I don't want to use the word fame, but they are kind of like recognized within certain specific functionality. So then the institutions will know. I mean,
Totally.
in their eyes, I think comes down to for the institution if they are valuable or not. How
Yeah.
much value has that artist? Because they transform it into numbers at the end.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but that's kind of like thinking from like artist perspective, like because I was reflecting on like curation, or I don't know, in performing arts, maybe it's I don't know, director, programmer's job to curate. Because what happens, especially in media art, is like you always see the same name. I mean, that's the same in every field, but there's it's not interesting as curation if you just see the same name everywhere, right? Like you have to, like as a curator, you should be more creative. Like for example, what Jan has been doing, I think it's more interesting because she's really, like she has this enthusiasm to find interesting people, not always like working with the same people, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. And then if
Yeah.
their job is, like more, um, has more, like a spotlight, I think it would change a bit because from what you said, I think curators are not in that spot where they have recognition in a way. It's part of the institution, right? It's more about like doing their job to have run this thing more like stable,
Yeah. I mean, I think it
not
depends
being
though.
radical and creative as a curator's
No, but I
job.
think it's more, I see it like, I see what you said, but I think somehow, I mean, it's not completely like in a box what I will say, but I think somehow it's narrowed down from, like you have a state and then you have politics of the state in culture. And then from the state you go to the institution A, and then institution A has a policy, there are policies already that are given to them. And if in these policies there are not space to, for instance, in innovation, for instance, could be the one of the policies given down to the from the government is like you have maybe certain freedom to do what you want, and maybe then at that level in the institution already they said, okay, part of our programs will be about scouting new talents. That is somehow more the space that you mentioned, for instance, Jan. And like in places like in Burj Khalifa, for instance, they have these calls the last 4 years that I applied already twice about yeah, this program that is about young choreographers. I don't know how they frame it, but is that is that trying to tackle that. They do their that, and that's just a part, just a small chunk of their work on I guess tackling that, but for the rest they have to keep on what you were mentioning before, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I guess it to me like my perspective is that like is the institution. I mean, let's say curator is part of the institution. Is their job is to like be more consistent, stable versus like it's not just about taking risks, but I see it more like a creative part, like because you're not just taking risk by curating emerging artists, but also that's I see that is like more like interesting job if they do this, not just talking to the same people again, but they
Yeah.
are actually, because it actually is not easy. You have to do a lot of research to find these talents, right? And they're
Yeah.
everywhere. They are there. It's just
Yeah.
like, you have to do the job to get this done. And that's a lot of work. And that's not, I think my proposition is that, like this has to be, have to have more recognition of the curator's job to actually not scouting but going to, I don't know, like art schools, exhibitions. It's a lot of work, and I know people do that, like for example Stefan from Tanzhaus, we met at
Yeah.
our Rundgang, and yeah, I mean people do that. It needs a lot of work in there.
But other thing, I mean, and this is like, of course, because you're speaking about economy. So then this is, so I think I see also more often now. I don't know what does it mean that exactly. Because I guess I'm also not really involved in this curatorial circuit. But like lately I see more that some places like in Zurich, for instance, there is some programs they are giving you as a curate, like, or yeah, they're giving these grants to for you to be an associated curator, like for I think 2 years. I saw two friends were doing that.
Yeah.
And one of them was an artist, and I met her when I went to see this weird performance, República. And she's a dancer, she's a choreographer dancer. And she was mentioning that at some point she was presenting her work also, and she was very criticized for that. Um,
I
because
mean, like she curated herself. I mean,
she did a creation of different things, and also she select her own work.
yeah.
And she was also so criticized for that. And I think it's interesting because then basically uh is I mean that challenge, or like I mean that specific example, regardless if I will what I will think is good or not, but I think that challenge very much the idea of how the curator works, how they position themselves, um, or how do they understand economy basically. Because I know, for instance, in her case, her curation was about, she called it I think el caldito, which is like el caldo is like a soup, no? In Colombia. She's from Bogota. And then her work was, of course, around mm, people that she knows. They works around these topics of care. And then it was, I think, more the idea was like to blend people to be together for a certain time and to live together, kind of in a path alike environment around care. And So when she proposed, I haven't seen really the content of the materials, but when she told me that she proposed her own work there, I know that it's not that I can imagine that she's not, she didn't allocate like a tons of money to pay herself for her work, to create a big piece. Um, but it came, I think, or that's my reading also by talking to her, as part of like they told her not to do it, and nevertheless she had the power and she did it. And then also when I just saw some Instagram some days ago where she was openly also reflecting on that space, not uh denouncing nobody, but just saying like the friction. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's because I was in a more like curatorial position at one point. I mean, not it's not like a big deal, but it's hard. I know that it's I wouldn't say like I wouldn't reject that idea of like curating yourself in there. Like I wouldn't think that it's absolutely no goal, but it implies a lot of things, like you said. And in my case, I didn't put my work in there. Maybe I did the workshop, but like I try to do like smaller, especially like my project with processing was to promote um, emerging artists. So there's no point me being
Yeah,
there.
exactly. But as you said, like then there's your framework was like that. Like
Yeah,
it would be a bit weird if with something that is uh if that's framed that you will after just like going there.
yeah, hijacking.
That's a bit weird. I don't know specifically how is the case of my friend Catalina, but I think it's interesting, especially like because I remember when I met Nuno. I don't know exactly when. I guess I met Nuno after being with Jan, and then that we talk when I stay with her some days. Then we have the time to talk and then get to know each other. Then this idea of like is a super skill for like a curator if they know how numbers work. Like if they can understand how this admin thing works.
Yeah,
Um,
curation and like a jury. That was like a big. I mean, I only did like one job as a jury, but doing this like helps a lot if you want to apply for something
yeah.
in the committee.
Mm.
Well, now I'm in the Modena as well, but
Yeah. Um,
should we talk about the office or
no, let's move to I guess like to the PIF cam thing.
yeah, should I stop
Uh,
the recording?
yeah.